Hi, welcome to Slick Willy Flying. What we're going to do today is a Flashtail Deceiver. So recently I put out a video where we did a 2-material deceiver. This is not a 2-material deceiver. I have a little bit more materials going in here, but it's not a lot of materials. I still consider this absolutely a Slick Willy Fly, and it's pretty simple to tie. You can do it in a lot of different colors, in a lot of different sizes. So I hope you have a cocktail. I'm going to change the camera now. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and let's tie a fly. Let's talk materials real quick. So what I want to tie is another version of this, what I call my tequila sunrise color, as opposed to chartreuse white. So I'm going to use a little bit of white bucktail. I'm going to use yellow bucktail. I'm going to use orange bucktail. Then I'm going to use a little bit of this pearl hollow flash, which I think is really cool looking. This is a brand that I find in Sweden just recently. It's called Humor, if I'm saying that correctly. And according to this package, pretty sure this stuff is made in Finland. I've never seen it before, but I like it. And I got a few others. I got some angel hair by them in a couple of different colors. And that's what we're going to use to tie this flashtail. So now I can have another sip of my cocktail and we can change the camera angle and let's tie a fly. Alright, so we're going to tie this in a 4-0, and really when I'm tying this fly today, this particular fly that I'm going to tie right now, I'm thinking about exotics in South Florida, peacock bass specifically. In South Florida. Not that an awesome largemouth wouldn't go after this, but it's just what's on the mind right now. That's why I want to tie this orange. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of super glue on the thread, and now I'm going to wrap. I'm going to continue wrapping towards the shank, and then I'm going to wrap back over the super glue. So this actually is a very simple fly to tie, and a lot of people, when you hear deceivers, want to tie in hackle, and there's literally nothing wrong with tying in some hackle. It'll give this a great swimming action, but some of these exotics will rip the hackle right off your fly. So I think that the bucktail, solid bucktail, swims great, and it's just not needed. Alright, so I'm sorry I didn't explain, for thread, let me get a little, I'm using 140 denier burnt orange. So good strong thread that I can crank down hard with. Alright, so the first piece of bucktail that I'm going to use, I'm actually going to start with a little bit of white. And I'm going to explain something. For the tail section that I don't want it to splail too much, I'm going to go ahead and use a piece from the tip here, because these are not hollow, these are solid, and I can actually, I'm going to show you a second trick where I can tie these in fairly straight. So I'm just going to get a little clump, trying to keep it as white as possible. I don't want to get any of the brown. And this is pretty much the only clump of white I'm going to use. And I'm going to take out all the shorts. I'm pinching out everything that's not full length. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull out any crazy longs. And now I want this fly to have a little bit of length to it. So the way I do that, and I'm going to just even out the ends here. I'm not really going to trim this. I'm not even measuring. I'm just going to even out the ends so that it just makes it a little bit nicer to tie it in. That's all I'm doing. Now, I don't want this clump to splail like a lot of times you'll see deer hair do. And one of the things that I do is I pick from the tip, like I said before, But additionally, I tie this in right at the end of the bucktail. So a couple of loose wraps. I'm just going to work it around the hook. And now I'm just going to crank that hard right at the tip of the bucktail. And by doing it this way, I keep it from getting huge. And that's pretty much what I wanted for the end of this fly. Now, I'm going to do a step that I don't always do. I'm going to go ahead and put a little super glue on this. I'm going to pause the video, and then we're going to pick it up once the super glue has dried. But these fish will rip this right off the hook. We need to make this fly strong. Alright, so we are calling this a flashtail. So obviously, I'm going to start with a bunch of flash now. And I'm actually going to be much more generous than what I normally am with the flash. I didn't pre-prep anything. This is a brand new package, so it's a little bit hard getting out. But here we go. So I'm just going to take, I don't know, I'm just going to pinch this, maybe it's 10 strands of this hollow pearl. This color looks so cool. Never seen this brand before. It's a very new brand for me. But I'm liking it. Liking it a lot. So I do want to make sure the ends are staggered somewhat. And I'm going to go ahead and put this pretty much on top. A hair longer than the white bucktail. And now I'm just going to get a couple of wraps in. Couple of loose wraps just like that. My super glue is not dry. Did not give it enough time. That's okay. We're going to work this carefully now since I know the super glue is not dry. So I want to get this over, but I don't want it to sit only on top. I kind of want to give it that little pinch that you just saw me do. Carefully trying to keep my fingers out of the super glue. And that's the first clump of flash we're going to put on. And now I'm going to get this silver angel hair. And again, I'm going to get a pretty generous clump. This stuff is a bit longer. So this stuff I'm actually going to fold in half. Actually, I'm not. I'm just going to put it on the thread about center mark. And I'm just going to get this draped over. And kind of work it around a little. So it's on all sides, not just on top. So it looks like flash all the way around this tail. And lock that in. Nice. Now, something you can do, you could take a dubbing brush and you can just start kind of blending it all in. Doesn't hurt anything. And really blending is what we're going for here. Like a knot in there. I'm really glad I took the brush actually now. Alright, and the length doesn't really matter. But if you're gonna ever trim your flash, you don't cut it, you just kind of rake your scissors through there, and that will shorten it up the way you want, so it looks a little more natural. Okay, so now we're gonna go to yellow bucktail. Now this time I'm going to work down the bucktail to about the center portion of the tail, where it's not really hollow, but it's not really not hollow. I mean, it starts to be that kind of bucktail that will split, but we'll see how this turns out. And the idea here is to probably use a couple of clumps of yellow. That yellow bucktail I have is starting to get pretty banged up. Not a whole lot of bucktail left on that thing. Get the yellow shorties out. Even out the longs. Make sure my flash is all going the right way. Which it is enough anyway. Give that thing a turn. I'm actually going to move the thread back a bit. And I'm going to use the entire clump that I just picked out. Now, a lot of people will tie this fly in like a bulkhead. I'm not doing that in this particular fly. I want my profile to be thin but wide. Up and down wide, but thin across the body. So I'm just going to work this around the hook with my fingers. Trying not to lose too much of the bucktail. Lost a little bit there. That's alright. And now we're just going to crank that tight. Just like that. And now we're starting to get somewhere now. And you could, if you really wanted to make this fly look be just bulletproof, you just have to give it a little bit of super glue between each section, but I don't really want to spend that time. I did want to do it on the tail, because they just rip the tails right off. These fish are awesome. Okay, so now we're going to do another clump of yellow. Same exact process. You know, this is a very easy fly to tie, but because we're working with all this deer hair, it takes a little longer. You know, I'm always torn. I could pre-prep all these materials and then the fly will appear to go much, much quicker, but I don't think that that's really representative of what we're doing. You know, I think that this is much more the real deal. So I'm just going to square up the end. I've pulled out the shorts, and now we're just going to go ahead and a couple of loose wraps, work it around the hook, same as before, making sure that I've got it around the hook. Now I could pull that tight and just crank that down. And this is when having those strong threads really make a difference. Alright. So now we're going to do the next step, which is I'm going to switch to orange. And where's my orange? I haven't decided if I'm going to do 1 or 2 clumps of the orange. It really will be determined by how the fly looks. Now we're just going to, I guess I'm going to trim the butt ends like I always do. I could just couple of loose wraps and we start working this around the fly. Man, that looks good. It's a great color combination. Am I happy with that? Oh, I lost a little bit of, I went around the hook. Okay, so I am going to actually take a second here and I'm going to trim a little bit of this excess, and that will help us decide if we want to put another clump on. Now it's a whip finish and it's UV resin eyes. So, I mean, you have a choice here. You know, there's a lot of different heads you can make. I like using this head design because it gives me a little bit of weight and I know that this fly will sink. It's not going to sink like a stone, but it won't float either. And that's important. So that's a big reason that I do the UV resin heads. Whip finish. But there are so many options that you can use when you decide how you want to finish off this fly. You could do a hollow tie and make a big head, push water. I have got a ton of videos where I make different kind of finishes on the heads. But for this particular fly, which I'm super happy with the way this looks, yeah, we're gonna put the UV resin and the eyes on. Alright, for eyes I'm using these Frantic Epoxy Eyes 3D. They're awesome. They're red and black. They're red with a black pupil. They're 12 millimeters, so they're quite large, but I just think they're awesome for this fly. I'm going to most likely fast forward through the entire eye process because I've done this on so many videos, and it'll just make the video go quicker. Alright, so welcome back. So there it is. So I fast forwarded through a lot of the UV resin head portion, but I do want to talk about one thing. It's actually pretty important. You saw that I took a lot of effort to make sure that these eyes ended up pretty close, because what happens is if you get the eyes crooked or lopsided, it won't allow the hook to keel. Your fly can spin. So it's important to take a little extra time and make sure that the eyes come out good. You saw I made a mistake. That's why I like to do my videos in one take, so you see the real deal. You can always back up the thread and fix stuff. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. This is a great fly. It could be tied hollow tie. It could be bulkhead. There's a million different ways of doing it. This is pretty simple and still pretty durable. I don't want to have a huge profile. I would like my fly to stay narrow but fairly tall. And unfortunately, I mean, I think this fly looks great, but it will look totally different when it's wet. And I don't really have a way of showing that to you. So it's a great fly. You just have to tie one up and see for yourself. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe. Don't forget to have a cocktail with me. Good luck catching, and we'll see you on the next video.